Hi, this is George Alger, and welcome to another segment of Our Ventura TV. Today's guest expert is Andres Salazar, who is the author of a graphic novel, Pariah, Missouri. Welcome, Andres.
Thank you very much, George. Glad to be here.
So let's get right into the topic here.
Okay.
What is a graphic novel?
So a graphic novel is basically a comic book, and I'll use those kind of interchangeably. The term was coined first in 1964, and then later in '78 by Will Eisner with his book called A Contract with God. Later on, it becomes more popular in the '80s with Alan Moore's Watchmen, Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and those kind of things. But really, it's just a term meaning a series of sequential art in a book format, like a comic book. But instead of serialized per month, it's usually like a separate story. Now,
this has been going on a long time, but it's gained greater popularity in recent years. Do you have any insight into how that came to be?
Well, I think basically Hollywood and the other kind of big media corporations are using comic books, these properties, just like they've done books. You know, they make a lot of movies out of Harry Potter and all these kind of popular books, Mark Twain, what have you. And they're doing the same thing, is just now looking into graphic novels as sources for new IP, new properties, and to develop into other film and TV franchises. So it's kind of just becoming more innocuous in our culture, in our pop culture. We're learning more about it. We see more about it on TV. And so it's always been there, but the popularity definitely has been ramping up in the last 10 years.
Good. Now, we've brought you brought some illustrations here. Now, are these illustrations that are actually in this book?
Yeah, these are the pages, the art pages that are made in the comic. So a traditional graphic novel or comic book, first, of course, you need a story. You need something that captures you and that will hopefully capture an audience. And once you have that script or story, you then are going to start visualizing it, right? And just like storyboards for a film, you're going to basically make pages of the comic and have these illustrations tell the story. So there's a whole art style and whole lexicon surrounding graphic novels that are different than other mediums. So these are the actual pages, and they're made on that large size, and then we shrink them down into the book size. That's kind of traditionally how it's done.
Now, you yourself are an author and the artist, correct?
I have an assistant that I work with, Jose Pescador. He does some of my art chores with me, so we work together as a team. But yeah, I do the final cut. I do all the watercoloring and the painting of the work he does.
In the industry, how common is it that the writer would do any of the art?
Nowadays, it's kind of going back and forth. So traditionally, you have a writer and then you have an artist, and that's kind of the old style. Nowadays, there's a lot of these guys who do it all, right? Frank Miller, for instance, does all of it. He has some assistants, of course, but same type of thing. I think it's hard to say if it's more popular now or back then, but definitely it's something that I enjoy collaborating with people. And so for me, it's a good way to get another mind in the project and work together. And I just like that kind of collaborative way of doing things.
Good. Now, for folks who aren't familiar with graphic novels, obviously you can see that there's a lot of pictures, so you would presume you could get through the story pretty quickly. So is there, compared to traditional literature, is there sort of, I don't know, it's not standard lengths, but popular lengths like there are with books and short stories that you could differentiate them?
You know what? I think for this medium, it's wide open.
Okay.
And that's some of the magic that I have and I love about the books. A graphic novel can be 24 pages. It can be 318 pages. There is no standard size. There's no standard length. And that breadth of opportunities and options as a creator is really exciting, right? I don't have to worry about a studio or some company telling me it's got to be this length or it's got to be shot in this type of film. I can do it however I want to do it. I can use whatever medium I want to do it, digitally, traditional watercolored, mixed media, and that's what's fun, right? Is it's really wide open. Of course, if you think about it commercially, things have to fit on shelves, right? So it's got to fit, if you want it at Barnes & Noble, it's got to have a certain size. But really, graphic novels can go wherever you want to take them.
Good. Now, you are predominantly a writer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now, As a writer, do you, speak to the idea that as a writer you could simply not have pictures, which means you're really painting the pictures in the reader's minds,
Right.
as opposed to where, in this case, you're making it easier for the reader to digest the information, but nevertheless, it's a much more narrow scope of what they're going to receive because you're giving it to them. Could you
Right.
just speak to that difference?
Oh gosh, I mean, that is, that I think is some of the very exciting parts about graphic novels to me, is the stuff between the panels. So there's a magic, if I can pick this up,
Sure.
there's a magic that happens between these panels that's called the gutter, the space in between. And your mind is putting something in between these. There's a time, there's a space, there's something that's happening between these frames. And that to me, you only get in comics, right? You only, in a movie, it's a passive. In a movie, you watch it happen. You're an observer. In a novel, you are creating everything, and you are visualizing through the words your idea of what red and blue and a big tablecloth is. But for a comic book, you get to determine how those frames put together. And there's a little bit of magic there that's only in this kind of medium. So as a writer, I love this way to do it. And for me, it's a good way to show people what I want to show them. Meaning, if I say this is a big house in a book, I can describe it and I can use a lot of description of that big house. But potentially, different people have different ways of how they visualize it. This way, they see the big house. They see the Comanche warrior. They see the vampire or what have you. And so I get to show them this is what it looks like. So that's kind of fun because I'm a visual person. That's the way I've learned through my childhood how to relate things. So visually, this is stimulating to me, and so that's the way I like to write.
Good, and actually that does a perfect segue into my next question, because as a writer, I was going to ask you, is this actually more satisfying when you are presenting something more precise to a viewer, even though there is the gaps that the viewer has to fill in with their own mind, relative to, for instance, a book where everything is being created?
Right, and so from my experience, for me, as I go speak to fans and go to conventions and things, that is what is exciting to me, is showing them the work. So it's hard to get people to read a book. They have a cover, that's all they know. They don't know if it's going to be good. They don't really know if it's their type of thing they're interested in. But if they pick up the comic book, they flip through it. In 30 seconds, they know if they want to buy it or not. They right away visually can see, oh, I like this art, or this is exciting. Ooh, what happens here? Oh, I want to read the story. Now I want to get into this. So it's almost like a trailer in a way, because you can see right away what this is about, and ooh, I like the visuals. That's what catches people usually. And so for me, it's important to have strong visuals in the story to get people grabbed, and then my storytelling and my words hopefully will keep them for future stories.
Cool. Now, for someone who is not familiar with graphic novels and sort of categorizing in their mind, I'm guessing this is more similar to a screenwriter's profession. Is that correct, as opposed to a novelist?
I would say you could make that argument. So I'm sure there's people that would argue against that. But I think the way I visualize it and the way I tackle the problem is similar to that. So when you're writing the script for the book, you do have to put in kind of direction and camera spots. I describe all the panels in the book when I'm writing the script, just like a screenwriter would write in his script about where the camera goes and what the actor is doing. And so there are some of that kind of direction and description of sequence of action, which is similar to a traditional film script. So in that way, you do tackle the mechanics of writing similar. So yeah, I think you could make that argument that it is in that same vein versus a traditional novelist.
If there are some writers who are watching this program and they're interested in this topic, not sure how to approach it, what would you advise them? I mean, is it more opportune from a commercial perspective to go into graphic novels as opposed to just writing, or not? Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I'm in no way an expert in that.
Okay.
So I'm a self-published author. I publish children's books and graphic novels, and that's what I do, and that's what I love. And I think being a self-published guy is the best job in the world. Whether that is necessarily commercially successful as other things, I can't speak to that. From my own experience, it's very rewarding and exciting for me, but it is a hard road to hoe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It is a challenge because of the popularity of the medium, because of the popularity and competition you have with larger franchises that have been here for years and years. It's difficult to get the visibility of your created stuff to the masses, and so it's a hard but very rewarding kind of path to go down, as far as creatively speaking.
Okay. And when you began as a writer, did you begin with the idea of going in this direction, or the graphic novels came later?
I guess the graphic novels came later, I would say. I've always had a love of comics. I mean, I'm a huge fan of graphic novels since I was a child, clearly. I wouldn't be dedicating my life doing this if I didn't have history with it. But I went to some performance kind of schools and things like that, and so I studied acting and direction, and so my love originally was film, TV, that kind of thing, and so I've done short films, and that's kind of the world where I was interested in. And then I was just having some stumbling blocks kind of getting into those doors, and I just started thinking, you know what, I can make something without needing thousands and thousands of dollars, and it could be tangible, it could have fans, and people could read my stuff. And so I thought, why don't I do what I loved in the beginning, is go to comics and go to graphic novels and make some of these properties that I can enjoy. And then maybe if I go into film down the road, then that could be fun too. But right now I'm just having a great time making comics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're just about out of time.
Okay.
Is there some summating message you'd like to convey to the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be here to share graphic novels and comics with people. There's some great places to go online as well as locally to just branch out. Comics is not a genre, it's a medium. You can get a comic book graphic novel on any topic, on any type of thing that you're interested in, and it's exciting. And so people can reach out and find more of my stuff if they go to decadebrothers.com. And I have a blog there, and you can kind of see what a self-published author does, and go through the journey with me as I bring this and other books and properties into the world, and kind of see from my perspective how things go.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is George Alger signing off for another segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.